Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, click that subscribe button. It helps our channel grow. It helps our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know, as we're talking college football on this channel year round. Appreciate your support. Click that subscribe button. Talk Iron Bowl. Yeah, we're going down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Auburn at Alabama. Alabama, an 11.5 point favorite. The over-under set at 52.5. But here's the bottom line. If Auburn is supposed to lose by 2 touchdowns, those players don't know it because they're coming off of a win over Texas A&M, and they are very confident coming into this game. Producer Matt, let's see what DeMarcus Riddick, the true freshman linebacker at Auburn, said going into the week. This was on Monday. He said, quote, Ryan Williams, who of course is the star wide receiver at Alabama, ain't no big-time player to me. I will not lose to Bama while I'm here. Oh, my goodness. By the way, Cam Coleman, the true freshman wide receiver at Auburn, had some comments as well. So Auburn is not ducking the smoke going into this game. And I'll be honest, they should feel good coming out of last week against Texas A&M. Because if you watch the Texas A&M game, frankly, if you've watched this Auburn team all year, I'm not saying Auburn is Georgia or Texas or Oregon or Ohio State, but they're not as bad as their record indicates, and they are getting better over the course of this season. We talked about it on the show last week. Peyton Thorne, I don't know how many people realize this, coming into last Saturday, has 1 interception since the 1st of October. Okay, September was a disaster. 5 turnovers against Arkansas, 4 turnovers against Cal. Not all of them were on him, but a lot of them were. Since October 1, he had 1 interception coming into last week, 1 interception last week against Texas A&M, but he also threw 2 touchdown passes. He's playing better. Auburn had almost 500 yards of total offense in that game against Texas A&M, and it is worth noting, Cam Coleman is emerging as a star. This was the 5-star receiver originally committed to Texas A&M. He flipped to Auburn around this time last year. Well, Cam Coleman against Texas A&M last week, 7 catches, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. This after having 8 catches for 100 yards against UL Monroe. So you have a star emerging at wide receiver. Jarquez Hunter is one of the best running backs in the SEC. Peyton Thorne is playing better. And oh, by the way, Auburn does have a top 15 defense in all of college football and is especially good against the run. That's interesting going into an Alabama game where Alabama is reeling, okay? So we know about Auburn coming off the big win, but let's talk a second about Alabama. And listen, I get a lot of stuff wrong. This isn't I told you so. You should always listen to me. I've never got anything wrong. But I picked Oklahoma I picked the under in that game last week because I thought it was going to be super low scoring. And what did I say? And I've been consistent on this since the Vandy game. I've said, I don't know what Alabama's offense is when Jalen Milroe isn't picking up huge chunks of yards as a runner on offense. Again, you go back to Alabama's losses this year. You go back to the game against Tennessee. In that game, Jalen Milroe finished for Alabama with 14 rushes for 11 yards rushing in that game. The Texas A&M or the Oklahoma game this past weekend, by the way, even worse. Jalen Milroe as a runner, 15 carries, 7 yards rushing. Okay. And so you look at what this offense becomes when Jalen Milroe can't run. It is easy. Listen, I'm not a scheme expert. I'm not a former coach. I'm not claiming that I have all the answers, but all these highly paid defensive coordinators and head coaches in the SEC have seemed to figure it out. If you can slow down Jalen Milroe, there really isn't that much to this offense. And I think that's got to be a big concern coming into this Auburn game where, again, as I said, Auburn not only has one of the best total defenses in all of college football, but they are very good against the run. Auburn on the season ranks in the top 20 in run defense. By the way, that is 4th in the SEC. You know who's ahead of them? Tennessee, which beat Alabama. Oklahoma, it's 5th in the SEC, excuse me. Tennessee beat Alabama. Oklahoma is ahead of Auburn. They beat Alabama. South Carolina gave Alabama fits, and Auburn as well, in addition to Ole Miss, who, of course, is not on Alabama's schedule. And so when I look at this game, I'm going to call a spade a spade. I like Auburn to cover. And I'll be honest, I don't think it would surprise me at this point if Alabama were to lose this game outright. It sounds crazy, and I'm not picking it, and my official best bet is 11.5, but a couple things stand out. One, Auburn. Listen, we talked about on the Aaron Torres pod. I know nobody likes Hugh Freeze. I know everybody's got their opinions on him, but if you just look at the win-loss record as opposed to the games that Auburn has played and how they have competed in said games, they've been competitive in every single game. They lost by 7 to Cal in a game they had 4 turnovers, okay? You have 2 turnovers, you beat Cal. They lost by 10 to Arkansas in a game they had 5 turnovers. That's insane. They lost by 6 to Oklahoma. They led going into the fourth quarter, had a pick 6 in that fourth quarter. They led by 14 going into the fourth quarter against Missouri. Only loss of real consequence, like with a big margin this year, was at Georgia by 18 points. And so this team has been able to be competitive with everybody on the schedule. Well, as I said, Peyton Thorne is playing better. He's not turning the ball over, only 2 turnovers since October 1st. That's an 8-game stretch. And also on top of that, Cam Coleman has emerged and the defense is really good. From the Alabama side of things, I just got to be real. I don't know what they do on offense if Jalen Milroe isn't running the ball. Again, take out the LSU game. That offense has struggled for 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row now. Struggled against South Carolina, struggled against Tennessee. Missouri, okay. Missouri was a bunch of backups, whatever. And then LSU, Jalen Milroe goes off. Everybody thinks he's awesome. And it's like the next game, Oklahoma completely shuts him down. So Auburn will be ready for Jalen Milroe. DJ Durkin, another guy, whatever you think about him, great defensive coordinator. And I'll say this about Alabama. And this is coming straight from Alabama fans. This isn't even just Torres' opinion. Alabama's been up. Alabama's been down this year. But there's been a couple games where they just came completely unprepared to play. Now, you'd think rivalry game, you'd think everything's okay, you'd think they'd be good to go, but are we sure they're going to be good to go? I mean, remember, they were playing for an SEC championship game appearance and a college football playoff appearance last week in Norman and were a complete no-show. They were playing as the number 1 team in the country against Vandy, complete no-show. And so the idea now that they really have nothing to play for, they're not going to the SEC championship game. I would argue that I think in the stacking of 3-loss SEC teams, if we ever get there, they're at the bottom of that stack. I wouldn't put them above Ole Miss. I wouldn't put them above South Carolina. That's another conversation for another day, but it doesn't change the fact I don't know what these guys have to play for. Also worth noting, and I think this is important, Deontay Lawson, the guy who has the helmet comms in his helmet, leads the defense. There's only one guy on defense that has that in his helmet, just like there's only one quarterback. I bring it up because he got hurt in that Oklahoma game, did not return, will not play this week. He is out for the year, unfortunately. And so ultimately, am I going to pick Alabama to lose at home on senior day? I don't know that I'll go that far. But can I see this being a 24-20 type game? Yeah, I think it will be. Give me Auburn to cover in this game. The 11.5 is my best bet. By the way, remember, we're recording on Monday. So if that number goes down throughout the week or up, just keep that in mind.